As the daughter of a pioneer in exploration in Antarctica, actually, my father spent 2 years in Antarctica 50 years ago, and in fact has a glacier named after him there. I'm aware since then that of the work that's been done in Antarctica and the differences there, the changes since then in Antarctica. In the Arctic, what does the UK now need to do to maintain leadership there? And with other states, China, particularly China and other Asian states, taking an increased, an interest in that, what does the UK need to do to maintain that position? Dr. Powell, can we hear from you on that? Yes, sorry, Dr.
Again, having to sort of almost comment on UK policy. I mean, the UK does lots of excellent natural science in research in the Arctic. It does lots of excellent social science research in the Arctic and lots of humanities research. It has a great tradition in kind of, for example, the scholarly history of exploration and history of indigenous peoples and kind of political growth of political self-determination of indigenous peoples. So I think kind of continuing to fund that research and that activity is definitely key to the sort of to supporting the UK's being taken seriously as a kind of a science player in the region, and therefore as a kind of as an observer state in the Arctic Council and things like that. I think perhaps more, I don't know if the sort of subtext of your question seems to be that maybe we know more about the UK in the Antarctic than in the Arctic. I think yes, that's probably true. I think certainly as a teacher, there's the university teacher, there's certainly a lot of, as it were, confusion between them, and sort of both in children's literature and things, but more widely in terms of the wider public imagination, and knowing about the distinctions, I think is important. But as has already been said, there are lots of historical geopolitical reasons why the UK invests in a certain way in Antarctica in terms of science infrastructure and logistics and things compared to the Arctic, because of the long-standing kind of treaty obligations and things.
So particularly the impact that other states of China or Asian states might have. What's your view on?
Well, I mean, what the impact? So, a key aspect of both the 2013 and 2018 kind of policy frameworks is the idea of the UK as the nearest neighbour, nearest neighbour of the Arctic, the kind of nearest Arctic state. Obviously, Scotland and the Scottish Government have made exactly the same case that actually it's Scotland that's the nearest neighbour, not the United Kingdom, but there's the whole set of kind of issues going on there. But that's also the People's Republic of China are also making the same argument about also being a near neighbour. So that, as it were, the spatial geographical argument is very similar, but the way in which the investment in science and the sort of wider activities is obviously dwarfed in terms of funding and economy and things. So I guess whether the argument that the United Kingdom is the closest neighbour, therefore we should be always at the table, which we have been since, or at least we've always been in the room listening to the discussion since the first meeting of the Arctic Council back in 1996 and things, that inevitably that's been disrupted by new actors. It's not just China, lots of other Asian states as well are increasingly interested in the region, and so there's lots of issues about global responsibilities and particular state national interests in the region, definitely.
I think one of the things I would add is that this very much isn't a zero-sum game when it comes to science in the Arctic. There is really no shortage of enormously difficult, complicated questions in the Arctic, and the need to work together internationally to solve those is very prominent. So China has a genuine interest in the climate of the Arctic and its effect on the mid-latitudes. There is evidence that the changes in the Arctic are causing changes to the Siberian High, to seeing outbreaks of cold air into East Asia. So there's a genuine reason for China to be kind of especially interested in science in the Arctic. The head of the Director General of their Polar Research Institute of China is part of the International Arctic Science Committee steering committee, if you like, their executive committee, along with the UK. They are contributing their icebreaker, the Zhuilong, to support the US, German and Russian Mosaic mission in the Arctic, so that will be in the Arctic working. So there's all kinds of kind of connections that we could potentially have with China in the future.
Okay, thanks. We're going to move along. Question from Dr. Matthew Wofford.
The UK Arctic Research